somehow, don't ask me how, we've jumped into a parallel universe. We've entered the 5th dimension.
Parallel worlds exist alongside our universe.
I suppose a parallel world is another universe that we can relate to. It's somewhere we can go where things are different, but not so different that we can't understand them.
Haven't you read The Male Eunuch by Jeremy Greer?
So your history's parallel to ours as well. So hang on, who's the first person on the moon?
Nellie Armstrong.
Of course, he's not just giving a speech to Spock, he's also giving a speech to the viewer, in which the message is that the most logical, productive thing to do is the humanitarian cause.
All this can, of course, be played for laughs.
So, you're not aliens?
So if you inhabit a galaxy at the more comedic end of the time warp, don't be surprised if your mirror self is an excuse for a bit of social satire.
You come from a female-orientated society.
Well, it's not exactly female-orientated anymore, not since the 60s, you know, with the equal rights for men marches.
A parallel world is a good opportunity to look at aspects of our own world as well, and of course in Red Dwarf they use the opportunity to shine a light on kind of male stereotypes, male and female stereotypes. It draws attention to their parts of the character that are noticeably gender specific, and comment on those in a humorous way from the same character, but seeing it from the other perspective. So it's the other side of the mirror again. It's like seeing the evil version and being able to see what the character would be like in that scenario. It's the female version.
If you want to keep your beer cool, stick it between his legs.
It's a good opportunity to look at some of the expectations and obligations and responsibilities that people are used to having in their current lives. The crew of the Red Dwarf are all male, and so they have a very different view of pregnancy and casual sex that they would do if they were female characters, and the plot allows them to explore that.
I hope you get pregnant, you cheap little tot.
You what? Him? How can he get pregnant?
Well, if they didn't use precautions, he could be up the spout.
You wanted to see me, Bongo?
Ever heard of a thing called the dimension theory of reality?
Doesn't that run along the lines that there is an infinite number of parallel universes where every possibility exists?
It's along those lines, yeah. The basic tenet states that for every decision that's made, the alternative decision is played out in another reality.
So?
So the lab boys have come up with a drive that can break the speed of reality.
Those boffins have hammered together a crate that can cross dimensions? When do I launch?
The idea that every choice we make in life creates a whole new universe opens up infinite storytelling possibilities.
Every moment in time, time forks, particularly at moments of crucial decisions, but even quite minor decisions. Time forks, it goes two ways, like the tributaries of a river. So right now, there are myriad, multiple, concurrent realities.
All we do is kill and slay.
But science fiction writers have always looked beyond individual lives and exploited the dramatic potential of alternate histories for whole societies, histories that split off from a single moment in time.
If a fly lands on the window or not, that's a branch point. There are two universes which are exactly the same, except in one of them the fly landed on the window. But occasionally, of course, these tiny changes can actually trigger much bigger events. Suppose you go back into the past and swat a fly. Well, mostly that probably doesn't change history. But suppose that fly was carrying a disease that was going to infect the pharaoh. And as a result of you swatting it, a particular pharaoh does not die of a disease. So his reign continues when in the world before you swatted the fly, it wouldn't have continued. You suddenly made a huge difference to history.
Most parallel worlds which are, I suppose, divergent histories, alternate histories, the Nazis won the war, or the Spanish Armada invaded England, or whatever. The point of those is satirical. It's to take something from our universe and expand it and say, doesn't this look silly? I mean, we examine, quite often it's various kinds of totalitarianism, isn't it? You say, wouldn't it be terrible if we lived under an appalling totalitarian regime that did dreadful things? But the point of that is to say, actually, maybe you do live under a terrible regime. Maybe by thinking of, I don't know, fascist Americas or whatever, it forces you to look at the elements of fascism that exist within your political system, within the America you've got.
In Red Dwarf's alternate history of the Kennedy assassination, Lee Harvey Oswald is accidentally prevented from firing the fatal shots.
Nice landing, Triton. That was about as smooth as Egyptian whiskey.
No, apologies, sir. I'm not sure what I did then.
This isn't right. Where are we?
Well, according to the time drive, the date is November the 22nd, 1963, and we're in the city of Dallas.
Their comic actions create a parallel world in which history runs differently. But in the world where Kennedy lives, there still isn't a happy ending.
President Kennedy was impeached in 1964 for sharing a mistress with mafia boss Sam Giancana.
It was the biggest scandal in American history. Kennedy was sentenced to 3 years in an open prison in July '65. J. Edgar Hoover became president. He was forced to run by the mob, who had pictures of him at a transvestite orgy.
So America had a president controlled by the mafia.
Soon after his election, the USSR were allowed to install a nuclear base in Cuba in return for mafia cocaine trafficking between Cuba and the States. With a Soviet nuclear base 30 miles from the US mainland, people fled from all the major cities.
So am I right in thinking there's a chance I could get a major nuclear explosion all over this suit? Because I'm telling you guys, that stuff does not dry clean.
So, a multiverse of parallel worlds. Now, if you could book yourself on a trip to a parallel world, what would you wish to find?